Hello and welcome to this exploring session, and today we are beginning our journey through Endymion, The Man in the Moon, by John Lyly, written somewhere around 1588 and printed a few years later. We've already done three plays by John Lyly. We're going approximately in chronological order. I think after this play it gets a bit difficult. The next few are sort of all on top of each other, depending on how you want to date things. But we've gone from this first little bunch of plays written for one acting company, and now he's firmly ensconced by 1588 with the Children of Paul's, and that's where these plays are going to be largely coming from, or for. As we continue our journey through John Lyly, we have assembled this wonderful room of people to continue reading through these plays. And so today, and I'm going to be very careful as to where I put my teeth with some of the pronunciations. Some of them will almost certainly be wrong. But reading Eumenides and Scintilla is...
Alexandra, and you're doing great so far.
Yeah, they were the easy ones. Reading Endymion and Favilla today is...
Hello there, I'm Emma Kemp. I'm an actor and I'm in London.
Reading Tellus and Bagoa is...
Hello, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer and director in Germany.
Reading the Prologue and Dipsas is...
My name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Samias today is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Floscula and Semele is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian in Hull.
Reading Dares and Corsites is...
Aliki, Chapple. I'm an actor and translator in the north of England.
Reading Sir Tophas and Cynthia is...
Hello, I'm Lois, a retired academic living in London.
And reading Epiton and Zontes is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and my brain is, a bit all over the place, so it's fine. I mean, the pronunciation will come naturally.
It's fine. I'm sure we'll be able to pack it all in place by the end of the session. Without further ado, we're going to dip into the prologue. We've had a lot of fun with some of the Lyly prologuing, and it's always interesting to see how he's going to be dealing and setting up the action that we're going to see. I don't know the auspices of who this prologue is for, so let the prologue, please. So over to Elizabeth.
Most high and happy princess, we must tell you a tale of the man in the moon, which, if it seem ridiculous for the method, or superfluous for the matter, or for the means incredible, for three faults we can make but one excuse. It is a tale of the man in the moon. It was forbidden in old time to dispute of chimera, because it was fiction. We hope in our times none will apply past times, because they are fancies, for there liveth none under the sun that knows what to make of the man in the moon. We present neither comedy nor tragedy, nor story, nor anything but, that whosoever heareth may say this, why, here is a tale of the man in the moon.
Oh, I quite like that. Yes, we have a context there. Most high and happy princess, almost certainly the queen, at least in that one. But yeah, it's a tale of a man in the moon, and it's neither a comedy nor a tragedy. It's nor a story, nor is it anything. So that's helpful.
I was going to say that it's kind of like the intro to, the prologue to Common Conditions, where it's like, yes, this is, a most strange comedy that, might not please you.
Well, it's interesting. With that, they were basically hedging their bets by saying it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this. This one's saying it's none of the things. It's Sarah.
It strikes me as being really modern. It sounds really modern. That particular sentence, We must tell you a tale of the man in the moon, which if it seems ridiculous or superfluous or incredible, for 3 faults we can make but one excuse. It's a tale of the man in the moon. It's like, that is just, I can just imagine some contemporary comedian who was, reading and doing an anecdote, performing an anecdote. I could just, it just has a really acerbic casualness to it, because prologues are usually so formal, aren't they? And I just think it's great.
Yeah, it's that recursive nature to it. Of if you're going to complain about it, this is it's in the title, people. It's about nobody, and it's saying you here with science fiction. You can't tell me, but this is nonsense because this is my universe, and if we're doing if rocks can talk where I am, then that's what they can do. You have no choice. I'm liking that very much.
I feel it's kind of like if you're. As someone who writes, when someone asks you, what are you currently working on? And then you go, well, it's a bit of this and, maybe a romance and a bit of adventure and a bit of thriller, but not quite, it's a bit of everything. It's complicated. It's kind of like that, but obviously it's a prologue. Okay,
I don't think we should linger anymore on this sort of endless recursion of just going, it's a man in the moon. That's the answer to everything. Let's move forward into a scene. So we are going into Act 1, Scene 1, featuring Endymion of the title and Eumenides.
I find, Eumenides, in all things both variety to content and satiety to glut, saving only in my affections, which are so staid and withal so stately, that I can neither satisfy my heart with love, nor mine eyes with wonder. My thoughts, Eumenides, are stitched to the stars, which being as high as I can see, thou mayst imagine how much higher they are than I can reach.
If you be enamored of anything above the moon, your thoughts are ridiculous, for that the things immortal are not subject to affections. If allured or enchanted with these transitory things under the moon, you show yourself senseless to attribute such lofty titles to such low trifles.
My love is placed neither under the moon nor above.
I hope you be not sotted upon the man in the moon.
No, but settled either to die or possess the moon herself.
Is Endymion mad? Or do I mistake? Do you love the moon, Endymion?
Eumenides, the moon.
There was never any so peevish to imagine the moon either capable of affection or shape of a mistress. For as impossible it is to make love fit to her humour, which no man knoweth, as a coat to her form, which continueth not in one bigness while she is measuring. Cease off, Endymion, to feed so much upon fancies. That melancholy blood must be purged, which draweth you to a dotage no less miserable than monstrous.
My thoughts have no veins, and yet, unless they be let blood, I shall perish.
They have vanities, which, being reformed, you may be restored.
Oh, fair Cynthia, why do others term thee unconstant, whom I have ever found immovable? Injurious time, corrupt manners, unkind men, who, finding a constancy not to be matched in my sweet mistress, have christened her with the name of wavering, waxing, and waning. Is she unconstant that keepeth a settled course, which since her first creation altereth not 1 minute in her moving? There is nothing thought more admirable or commendable in the sea than the ebbing and flowing, and shall the moon, from whom the sea taketh this virtue, be accounted fickle for increasing and decreasing? Flowers in their buds are nothing worth until they be blown, nor blossoms accounted till they be ripe fruit. And shall we then say they be changeable, for that they grow from the seeds to the leaves, from the leaves to the buds, from the buds to their perfection? And then why be not the twigs that become the trees, the children that become men and women, and mornings that grow to evenings termed wavering, for that they continue not at one stay. Ay, but Cynthia, being in her fullness, decayeth, as not delighting in her greatest beauty, or withering when she should be most honoured. When malice cannot object anything, folly will, making that a vice which is the greatest virtue. What thing, my mistress accepted, being in the pride of her beauty and latter minute of her age, that waxeth young again? Tell me, Eumenides, what is he that, having a mistress of ripe years and infinite virtues, great honours and unspeakable beauty, but would wish that she might grow tender again, getting youth by years and never decaying beauty by time, whose fair face neither the summer's blaze can scorch nor winter's blast chaff, nor the numbering of years read altering of colours? Such is my sweet Cynthia, whom time cannot touch because she is divine, nor will offend because she is delicate. Ah, Cynthia, if thou shouldst always continue at thy fullness, both gods and men would conspire to ravish thee. But thou, to abate the pride of our affections, dost detract from thy perfections, thinking it sufficient if once a month we enjoy a glimpse of thy majesty, and then, to increase our griefs, thou dost decrease thy gleams, coming out of thy royal robes, wherewith thou dazzlest our eyes down into thy swathed clouts, beguiling our eyes, and then... And then...
Ha! My apologies. Stay there, Endymion. Thou that committ'st idolatry will straight blaspheme if thou be suffered. Sleep would do thee more good than speech. The moon heareth thee not, or if she do, regardeth thee not.
Vain Eumenides, whose thoughts never grow higher than the crown of thy head. Why troublest thou me, having neither head to conceive the cause of my love, or a heart to receive the impressions? Follow thou thine own fortunes, which creep upon the earth, and suffer me to fly to mine, whose fall, though it be desperate, yet shall it come by daring. Farewell.
And exit Endymion.
Without doubt, Endymion is bewitched. Otherwise, in a man of such rare virtues, there could not harbour a mind of such extreme madness. I will follow him, lest in his fancy of the moon he deprive himself of the sight of the sun.
And exit Eumenides. Well, yeah, I think the prologue's definitely delivering so far. Now, falling in love with objects is a known psychological thing. Falling in love with the moon. I'm loving Eumenides' reactions here. You know, just, you okay? Maybe you should get some sleep. Maybe talking is bad for you. Maybe do less talking and other things. So yeah, this is really throwing the cudgel down right at the beginning. Thoughts from the room? Who wants to leap in on this one? Elizabeth.
I love the back and forth between Eumenides and Endymion. I thought it was really beautifully acted, and I thought it was really engaging. I was like, oh my gosh. But she was talking about Cynthia's Revels, another play that's called Cynthia's Revels. But I think that Endymion was talking, I was really like engaged and really sort of, she pulled me in.
Yeah. Yeah, Eumenides just going, I better follow him. Better follow. There's problems ahead here. Alexandra.
And I really like the way in which the text offers this opportunity for contrast between the Endymion and Eumenides dialogue, where, as the friend, you're there going, you can't be serious. And then that's the position in which Endymion starts his speech. And then he has this opportunity to really go for it and to convince us as the audience that, no, he is serious, and also it is serious. It's a worthwhile, at least for him, it's a worthwhile, or it's a valid feeling and pursuit. And then to undercut that again with Eumenides going, okay, stop now, go get some sleep, and we'll talk about this tomorrow. It's structurally, it's so beautiful, that construction.
And we've got that interrupted line, because Endymion's just going, and then it's just right, no, stopping you there, stopping you at that moment. It's just like, enough. Other thoughts from the room? Helen.
It's good to see Lily's back on form. I had doubts with the prologue. It seemed very, very short, and although there were these nice balanced phrases, there weren't that many of them. And there was very little natural history, and all sorts of things were missing. But yes, in scene 1, he gives us a speech of inordinate length. Full of balanced ideas.
And that's one of those things that, Lily, for people who's reading the plays, always give them a bit of a sort of hard time for, is especially as they're written in prose. I mean, all of these plays so far have been in prose. Is you get these blocks of text that come at you, and it's quite intimidating. Whereas, of course, on stage, there is a movement to this scene, and that block of text actually lives very naturally around dialogue and swift paced things. So it's actually a perfectly balanced scene in that sense. But yeah, we look at a speech like that on paper and just go, ha, yes, Lily's back. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about long speeches on the stage is that nobody knows that they're long. After they get to a certain point, Shaw apparently told somebody when they were rehearsing St. Joan that the Grand Inquisitor is an enormously long speech, and there is a point in it at which the audience will realize this is an enormously long speech and it's going to go on. But, with something like that, because you're looking not only at Endymion, but at Eumenides' reactions and so on, it feels more like dialogue anyway than just a speech. It's also a very good example of sustained paradox. I mean, it's arguing, that a mistress who changes all the time is a good thing, which is not what people usually say.
Yes, I really like that line of argument. This argument, the moon, it's always waxing and waning, but no, it's constant. It's always orbiting. It's always doing the same thing, actually. Alexandra.
Sorry, just to quickly add to that point, it is constructed very much like dialogue. So I didn't, and apologies, I was struggling with my keyboard. What you have there is lots of opportunities for Eumenides to want to talk back or to be engaged in that conversation with agreement and disagreement, just not be, either never get a word in edgeways or not want to speak. But it's so much of it is questions. He's not expounding. I mean, he is expounding on a thing that he believes, but it's not from a place of this is the truth and you must understand it. It's a much more dialogue shaped speech.
Emma, I may have seen Aliki as well. I'll queue you up. No, if not. Okay, Emma.
I was just to say that, I completely agree with that. I think he doesn't set out to make a big speech, I don't think. I think he just sort of starts seeing things and having ideas that keep crashing in, and it just builds and builds and builds. And maybe he sees a flower and says, like a flower, there comes up a bud to a blossom. And I think it just sort of builds completely in the moment. But I do think it's quite funny that he gets cut off just at the point where he's talking about, I don't know, her getting undressed, I think. And his friend's like, okay, that's enough.
Yes, that the eroticism of what's going on, just going, maybe that's a bit far. That's because this is about desires, we should move on now into scene 2. Let's see where the play is going to go. Act 1, scene 2. We have the entrance of Tellus and Floscula.
Treacherous and most perjured Endymion! Is Cynthia the sweetness of thy life, and the bitterness of my death? What revenge may be devised, so full of shame as my thoughts are replenished with malice? Tell me, Floscula, if falseness in love can possibly be punished with extremity of hate. As long as a sword, fire, or poison may be hired, no traitor to my love shall live unrevenged. Were thy oaths without number, thy kisses without measure, thy sighs without end, forged to deceive a poor credulous virgin whose simplicity had been worth thy favour and better fortune? If the gods sit, unequal beholders of injuries or laughters at lovers' deceits, then let mischief be as well forgiven in women as perjury winked at in men.
Madam, if you would compare the state of Cynthia with your own, and the height of Endymion his thoughts with the meanness of your fortune, you would rather yield than contend, being between you and her no comparison, and rather wonder than rage at the greatness of his mind, being affected with a thing more than mortal.
No comparison, Floscula? And why so? Is not my beauty divine, whose body is decked with fair flowers, and veins are vines, yielding sweet liquor to the dullest spirits? Whose ears are corn to bring strength, and whose hairs are grass to bring abundance? Doth not frankincense and myrrh breathe out of my nostrils, and all the sacrifice of the gods breed in my bowels? Infinite are my creatures, without which neither thou, nor Endymion, nor any could love or live.
But knew you not, fair lady, that Cynthia governeth all things? Your grapes would be but dry husks, your corn but chaff, and all your virtues vain, were it not Cynthia that preserveth the one in the bud, and nourisheth the other in the blade, and by her influence both comforteth all things, and by her authority commandeth all creatures. Suffer then Endymion to follow his affections, though to obtain her be impossible, and let him flatter himself in his own imaginations, because they are immortal.
Loath I am, Endymion, that thou shouldst die because I love thee well, and that thou shouldst live it grieveth me because thou lovest Cynthia too well. In these extremities, what shall I do? Floscula, no more words. I am resolved. He shall neither live nor die.
A strange practice, if it be possible.
Yes, I will entangle him in such a sweet net that he shall neither find the means to come out nor desire it. All allurements of pleasure will I cast before his eyes, insomuch that he shall slake that love which now he voweth to Cynthia, and burn in mine, of which he seemeth careless. In this languishing between my amorous devices and his own loose desires, there shall be such dissolute thoughts take root in his head, and over his heart grow such a thick skin, that neither hope of preferment, nor fear of punishment, nor counsel of the wisest, nor company of the worthiest, shall alter his humour, nor make him once think of his honour.
A revenge incredible, and if it may be, unnatural.
He shall know the malice of a woman to have neither mean nor end, and of a woman deluded in love to have neither rule nor reason. I can do it. I must. I will. All his virtues will I shadow with vices. His person, sweet person, shall he deck with such rich robes as he shall forget it is his own person. His sharp wit, wit too sharp that hath cut off all my joys, shall he use in flattering of my face, and devising sonnets in my favour. The prime of his youth and pride of his time shall be spent in melancholy passions, careless behaviour, untamed thoughts, and unbridled affections.
When this is done, what then? Shall it continue until his death? Or shall he dote forever in this delight?
No, Floscula, thou rendest my heart in sunder in putting me in remembrance of the end.
Why, if this be not the end, all the rest is to no end.
Yet suffer me to imitate Juno, who would turn Jupiter's lovers to beasts on the earth, though she knew afterwards they should be stars in heaven.
Affection that is bred by enchantment is like a flower that is wrought in silk, in colour and form most like, but nothing at all in substance or savour.
It shall suffice me, if the world talk, that I am favoured of Endymion.
Well, use your own will. But you shall find that love gotten with witchcraft is as unpleasant as fish taken with medicines unwholesome.
Floscula, they that be so poor that they have neither a net nor a hook will rather poison the dough than pine with hunger. And she that is so oppressed with love that she is neither able with beauty nor wit to obtain her friend, will rather use unlawful means than try intolerable pains. I will do it.
And exit Tellus.
Then about it. Poor Endymion, what traps are laid for thee, because thou honourest the one that all the world wondereth at? And what plots are cast to make thee unfortunate, that studies of all men would be the faithfulest?
And exit Floscula. And, as no one watched every single fantasy series ever produced on television and knows that this is not a good plan. Will it follow the usual trajectory? Who knows? Obviously, this is much earlier. They don't know about television yet. So many shows have done this. Thoughts from the room about Tellus, about Floscula. In a sense, structurally, it's a very similar scene to the one we've just had. We've got two people. We've got one person who's got an agenda, and the other one sort of trying to talk them to a degree out of it, or semi-complicit in it. It's a slightly different structure in terms of the back and forth. They each have reasonably chunky bits of speech for a lot of it. Lois.
Yeah, it's much more allegorical, though, because they end up in a debate really about Tellus is the earth and Cynthia is the moon. It's really odd that the sun doesn't figure in this at all, because Floscula is explaining that it's Cynthia that makes all these things grow on the earth, and that Tellus really has nothing without Cynthia's power. But it's not really the moon, it's the sun that really makes things grow. But of course, because it's Cynthia, because it's complement to Elizabeth, because it's that kind of love story, the sun can't really play any part in it.
Alexandra,
No, I was going to say the last thing that Lois said. So the sun Greek-wise, the sun is male and takes on many lovers, whereas the moon is all associated with virginity and stuff.
Alan.
Yeah, what confused me slightly is I've always thought of Tellus as being a male character in mythology, and that Gaia would have been the female equivalent. And so the first few bits of that, I was thinking, what the heck's going on here? Just on the basis of character names.
Yes, but the characters' names are not always exactly connective. There's a lot of play going on, I'm sure. And any thoughts about just the flow of that? What these characters are doing? I mean, Tellus is going on bringing out all the big guns. I'm going to really won't be able to resist by fair or foul. Helen.
Floscula has she isn't at all worried about Tellus having a bad opinion of her. I mean, she's flatly contradicting practically everything Tellus says. There's no. The the indication is that it's mistress and handmaid situation here. But nevertheless, what you've got is very much a friend giving you cautionary advice.
Okay, any additional thoughts before we move on? We've got lots of scenes to get through because Lily always packs in lots of scenes. Act 1, Scene 3. So 2 new characters who we haven't met before, but don't worry, there's going to be 2 joining them as well. It's not going to be a repetition of 2 people coming on and having a chat. So enter Deres and Samias.
Now our masters are in love up to the ears. What have we to do but to be in knavery up to the crowns?
Oh, that we had Sir Tophas, the brave squire in the midst of our mirth. And Ecce Autumn, will you see the devil?
Indeed, here enter Sir Tophas and possibly Epiton with him.
Epiton,
Here, sir.
I brook not this idle humour of love. It tickleth not my liver, from whence the love-mongers in former ages seemed to infer it should proceed.
Love, sir, may lie in your lungs, and I think it doth, and that is the cause you blow in our Sir Percy.
Tush, boy, I think it but some device of the poet to get money.
A poet? What's that?
Dost thou not know what a poet is?
No.
Why, fool, a poet is as much as one should say, a poet. But soft, yonder be 2 wrens. Shall I shoot at them?
They are 2 lads.
Larks or wrens? I will kill them.
Larks? Are you blind? They are 2 little boys.
Birds or boys, they are both but a pittance for my breakfast. Therefore, have at them, for their brains must, as it were, embroider my bolts.
Stay your carriage, valiant knight, for your wisdom is so weary that it stayeth itself.
Why, Sir Tophas, have you forgotten your old friends?
Friends? Nego argumentum.
And why not, friends?
Because amicitia, as in old annals we find, is inter pares. Now, my pretty companions, you shall see how unequal you be to me, but I will not cut you quite off. You shall be my half friends for reaching to my middle. So far as from the ground to the waist, I will be your friend.
Learnedly. But what shall become of the rest of your body from the waist to the crown?
My children, quod supra vos nihil ad vos. You must think the rest immortal, because you cannot reach it.
Nay, I tell you, my master is more than a man.
And thou less than a mouse.
But what be you 2?
I am Samias, the page to Endymion.
And I am Dares, a page to Eumenides.
Of what occupation are your masters?
Occupation, you clown. Why, they are honourable and warriors.
Ah, then they are my prentices.
Mine? And why so?
I was the first that ever devised war, and therefore by Mars himself given me for my arms a whole armory, and thus I go, as you see, clothed with artillery. It is not the silks, milksops, nor the tissues, nor the fine wool of Ceres, but the iron, steel, swords, flame, shot, terror, clamor, blood, and iron, so that they rocks asleep my thoughts, which never had any other cradle but cruelty. Let me see, do you not bleed?
Why so?
Commonly my words wound.
What then do your blows?
Not only wound, but also confound.
How darest thou come so near thy master, Epiton? Sir Tophas, spare us.
You shall live. You, Samias, because you are little. You, Dares, because you are no bigger. And both of you, because you are but 2. For commonly I kill by the dozen, and have for every particular adversary a particular weapon.
May we know the use for our better skill in war?
You shall. Here is bird bolt for the ugly beast, the black bird.
A cruel sight.
Here is the musket for the untamed, or as the vulgar sort term it, the wild mallard.
Oh, desperate attempt!
Nay, my master will match them.
Aye, if he catch them.
Here is spear and shield, and both necessary, the one to conquer, the other to subdue or overcome the terrible trout, which, although he be under the water, yet tying a string to the top of my spear and an engine of iron to the end of my line, I overthrow him, and then herein I put him.
A wonderful war! Doris, did thou ever hear such a dolt?
All the better. We shall have good sport hereafter, if we can get leisure.
Leisure? I would rather lose my master's service than his company. Look how he struts! But what is this? Call you it your sword?
No, it is my scimitar, which I, by construction, often studying to be compendious, call my smiter.
What? Are you also learned, sir?
Learned? I am all Mars and Ares.
Nay, you're all mass and lass.
Mock you me? You shall both suffer. Yet with such weapons as you shall make choice of, the weapons wherein you shall perish. Am I all a mass or a lump? Is there no proportion in me? Am I all ass? Is there no wit in me? Epiton, prepare them to the slaughter.
I pray, sir, hear us speak. We call you mass, which your learning doth well understand is all man. For maris is a man. Then as you know, is a weight. And we, for your virtues, account you a weight.
The Latin hath saved your lives, the which a world of silver could not have ransomed. I understand you and pardon you.
Well, Sir Tophas, we bid you farewell, and at our next meeting we will be ready to do you service.
Samias, I thank you. Dares, I thank you. But especially, I thank you both.
Wisely. Come, next time we'll have some pretty women with us to walk, for without doubt with them he will be very dainty.
Come, let us see what our masters do. It is high time.
And exit Dares and Samias.
Now will I march into the field, where, if I cannot encounter with my foul enemies, I will withdraw myself to the river, and there fortify for fish. For there resteth no minute free from fight.
And exit Sir Tophas with Epiton. Yeah, lots of fun to be had there. Yeah, we've got this sort of barnstormer coming in, and everyone else gets to do wisecracks, orbiting, shoaling around. Yeah, a complete lack of self-awareness. Let me see, do not bleed. Yeah? Commonly my words wound. I mean, that's such a good one. And his blows not only wound but also confound. I mean, what does that even mean? It's fabulous. Yeah, I think we've all found lines we really like. By all means, pitch them as we go along. Yeah, thoughts from the room about this bit of comedy business. Are we finding a connection with the plot? What do we think is going on here? Apart from, say, delightful comedy business. Yeah, any thoughts that people want to throw in? Helen, and then Aliki.
When was Don Quixote written in relation to this?
They wouldn't have known it yet. Well, at least it's unlikely. The first translation, I think, is 1604. And I think that's part one. Yeah, it often comes up, the question of, where Don Quixote was known. And it's certainly not this early. I mean, it may not even have been published this early.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, that lack of self-awareness is it's very familiar in that level. Aliki.
So I'm taking from his description of his arms that he is all hung about with stuff. So
Yeah.
I suddenly had this image of the saucepan man in the faraway tree. Just kind of something about
I think
of that.
For the second look, somebody could really make the most of this. Yes. I just felt you had to have something because there was so much that going on. I mean, normally one wouldn't in the first reading, but for the second reading, I certainly recommend whoever does this to get absolutely just hung with stuff.
So there must be a great deal of physical comedy just in his progressing across the stage.
Yes.
It's also the physical differences. You know, Tophas is clearly a much bigger person than the other. We got probably the much younger boys, or a much older, bigger lad, or even an adult. So that shoaling around him can be actually very much snapping at his heels kind of thing, adding to that physical dynamic. Sarah.
It would be quite funny though if you were going to stage this, if you made him really small and the other two just like these massive chunky guys who were just sort of standing there watching him while he does his stuff.
Lois.
It's quite a common pattern in a lot of these early plays. I mean, I think you've done Solomon and Preseda, haven't you, where you have Basilisco and his little page, and I think we had it in was it Bugbears? I mean, the idea of a sort of big, sort of Milles Gloriosus type, and then some small page who keeps making wisecracks and undercutting him. It seems to be a very common pairing.
We got it in the old wives' tale to a degree as well, I think, don't we? The sort of braggart figure there. We haven't actually done that Solomon episode yet. Yet it is imminent. It is not that far away. But yes, you managed to pick one we haven't done.
Right. Yeah,
It's
I
getting
think we
harder.
have done at least one other which had this combination too, though I can't remember now which one.
So Eric, did I see a hand? I can't.
I was just going to say that there's also a lot of potential for like sort of, just well, because Epiton seems to be like latching on to them as well, like latching onto the other two pages, but like he also seems to be younger and more naive compared to the other two. I don't know if that's just me, or he's just too terrified of Tophas to do anything.
He has to live with him all the time. He's probably traumatized. I'm not, as of yet, particularly twigging on a sort of plot here. Was any narrative event occurring there? Did I just miss, Lois?
Well, I think the only thing is just that Sir Topaz does come on saying that he's got nothing to do with love. He doesn't feel love. And since everybody else has been talking about love and what it does, I mean, we'll sort of see what it does or doesn't do to him, I suppose.
Yes, that we definitely had a knight a couple of weeks ago in the evening sessions who was declaring it had no interest in love, so there's I think that was common conditions. I think off the top of my head, I could be wrong. There's that idea of so thematically so far that's where we're going. Okay, we're going to scootle on with Act 1, Scene 4. And so we have the return of Tellus and Floscula, and also, possibly separately, Dipsas.
Behold, Floscula, we have met with the woman by chance that we sought for by travel. I will break my mind to her without ceremony or circumstance, lest we lose that time in advice that should be spent in execution.
Use your discretion. I will in this case neither give counsel nor consent, for there cannot be a thing more monstrous than to force affection by sorcery. Neither do I imagine anything more impossible.
Tush, Floscula, in obtaining of love, what impossibilities will I not try? And for the winning of Endymion, what impieties will I not practice? Dipsas, whom as many honour for age as wonder at for cunning, listen in few words to my tale, and answer in one word to the purpose, for that neither my burning desire can afford long speech, nor the short time I have to stay many delays. Is it possible by herbs, stones, spells, incantation, enchantment, exorcisms, fire, metals, planets, or any practice, to plant affection where it is not, and to supplant it where it is?
Fair lady, you may imagine that these hoary hairs are not void of experience, nor the great name that goeth of my cunning to be without cause. I can darken the sun by my skill, and remove the moon out of her course. I can restore youth to the aged, and make the hills without bottoms. There is nothing I cannot do, but that only which you would have me do. And therein I differ from the gods, that I am not able to rule hearts. For, were it in my power to place affection by my appointment, I would make such evil appetites, such inordinate lusts, such cursed desires, as all the world should be filled with both superstitious heats and extreme love.
Unhappy Tellus, whose desires are so desperate that they are neither to be conceived of any creature, nor to be cured by any art.
This I can, breed slackness in love, though never root it out. What is he whom you love, and what she that he honoureth?
Endymion, sweet Endymion, is he that hath my heart, and Cynthia, to fair Cynthia, the miracle of nature, of time, of fortune, is the lady that he delights in, and dotes on every day, and dies for 10,000 times a day.
Would you have his love, either by absence or sickness tasked? Would you that Cynthia should mistrust him, or be jealous of him without colour?
It is the only thing I crave that, seeing my love to Endymion unspotted cannot be accepted, his truth to Cynthia, though it be unspeakable, may be suspected.
I will undertake it, and overtake him, that all his love shall be doubted of, and therefore become desperate. But this will wear out with time, that treadeth all things down but truth.
Let us go.
I follow.
And off they jolly well wend. So, yes, Tellus, happy to try absolutely anything, going to ask what can be done, answer in one word. Not something that Lily is ever going to probably allow us to, yes or no, please. I'm in a hurry. I've got an appointment. No, sorry. There's a whole series. I have a form you need to fill in. I need to know precisely what you want. It's a complicated process. Terms and conditions apply. Thoughts, Sarah?
I am liking Tellus as a character a lot. She is great fun, and something just occurred to me there actually when you were talking, that thing about, I mean, you've got that classic joke here where I'm going to be very brief because I haven't got much time, and then she goes on and on and on for lines and lines, and I was thinking, I've heard that joke a lot, in plays with men doing it, but I don't ever recall a female character doing it before, and I just really like that. She's kind of a bit of a hoot, or you could play her that way. There is scope for playing her, because wronged goddesses are usually so spiteful and vengeful in a very formidable way, and she is spiteful and vengeful, but there's quite a lot of scope for making her hilarious as well, if you wanted to go down that path.
Other thoughts on the room? about the act so far. Also, for that matter, we've got a lot of we've got the central premises are sort of ticking away now. We've met a fair number of characters now. We may have more to come. It's quite tight at the moment in terms of number of characters on stage. Usually by Act 5, it's really quite flabby, but there's usually quite a lot of people wandering around. But the beginning is usually fairly concise, or has been so far. In the absence of additional thoughts, we will go into Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1, and we're very much in the return of Endymion.
Oh, fair Cynthia! Oh, unfortunate Endymion! Why was not thy birth as high as thy thoughts, or her beauty less than heavenly? Or why are not thine honours as rare as her beauty, or thy fortunes as great as thy deserts? Sweet Cynthia, how wouldst thou be pleased? How possessed? Will labours, patient of all extremities, obtain thy love? There is no mountain so steep that I will not climb, no monster so cruel that I will not tame, no action so desperate that I will not attempt. Desirest thou the passions of love, the sad and melancholy moods of perplexed minds, the not to be expressed torments of racked thoughts? Behold my sad tears, my deep sighs, my hollow eyes, my broken sleeps, my heavy countenance. Wouldst thou have me vowed only to thy beauty and consume every minute of time in thy service? Remember my solitary life, almost these 7 years. Whom have I entertained but mine own thoughts and thy virtues? What company have I used but contemplation? Whom have I wondered at but thee? Nay, whom have I not contemned for thee? Have I not crept to those on whom I might have trodden, only because thou didst shine upon them? Have not injuries been so sweet to me, if thou vouchsafest I should bear them? Have I not spent my golden years in hopes, waxing old with wishing, yet wishing nothing but thy love? With Tellus, fair Tellus, have I dissembled, using her but as a cloak for mine affections, that others, seeing my mangled and disordered mind, might think it were for the one that loveth me, not for Cynthia, whose perfection alloweth no companion or comparison. In the midst of these distempered thoughts of mine, thou art not only jealous of my truth, but careless, suspicious, and secure, which strange humour maketh my mind as desperate as thy conceits are doubtful. I am none of those wolves that bark most when thou shinest brightest, but that fish, thy fish, Cynthia, in the flood, Araris, which at thy waxing is as white as the driven snow, and at thy waning as black as deepest darkness. I am that Endymion, sweet Cynthia, that have carried my thoughts in equal balance with my actions, being always as free from imagining ill as enterprising, that Endymion, whose eyes never esteemed anything fair but thy face, whose tongue termed nothing rare but thy virtues, and whose heart imagined nothing miraculous but thy government, yea, that Endymion who, divorcing himself from the amiableness of all ladies, the bravery of all courts, the company of all men, hath chosen, in a solitary cell, to live only by feeding on thy favour, accounting in the world but thyself, nothing excellent, nothing immortal. Thus mayst thou see every vein, sinew, muscle, and artery of my love, in which there is no flattery nor deceit, error nor art. But soft, here cometh Tellus. I must turn my other face to her like Janus, lest she be as suspicious as Juno.
And enter Tellus with possibly later on Floscula and Dipsas. It's a little unclear.
Yonder I espy Endymion. I will seem to suspect nothing, but soothe him, that seeing I cannot obtain the depth of his love, I may learn the height of his dissembling. Floscula and Dipsas, withdraw yourselves out of our sight, yet be within the hearing of our saluting. How now, Endymion? Always solitary, no company but your own thoughts, no friend but melancholy fancies.
You know, fair Tellus, that the sweet remembrance of your love is the only companion of my life, and my presence my paradise, so that I am not alone when nobody is with me, and in heaven itself when thou art with me.
Then you love me, Endymion.
Or else I live not, Tellus.
Is it not possible for you, Endymion, to dissemble?
Oh, Tellus, unless I could make me a woman.
Why? Is dissembling joined to their sex inseparable, as heat to fire, heaviness to earth, moisture to water, and thinness to air?
No, but found in their sex as common as the spots upon the doves, the moles upon the faces, the caterpillars upon the sweet apples, the cobwebs upon the fair windows.
Do they all dissemble?
All but one.
Ah, who is that?
I dare not tell. For if I should say you, then would you imagine my flattery to be extreme? If another, then you would think my love to be but indifferent.
You will be sure I shall take no vantage of your words. But in sooth, Endymion, without more ceremonies, is it not Cynthia?
No, Tellus, that of the gods we are forbidden to dispute, because their deities come not within the compass of our reasons. And of Cynthia we are allowed not to talk, but to wonder, because her virtues are not within the reach of our capacities.
Why, she is but a woman.
No more was Venus,
She is but a virgin.
no more was Vesta,
She shall have an end.
so shall the world.
Is not her beauty subject to time?
No more than time is to standing still.
Wilt thou make her immortal?
No, but incomparable.
Take heed, Endymion, lest, like the wrestler in Olympia that, striving to lift an impossible weight and catches an incurable strain, thou, by fixing thy thoughts above thy reach, fall into a disease without all recure. But I see that thou art now in love with Cynthia.
No, Tellus, thou knowest that the stately cedar, whose top reacheth unto the clouds, never bowed his head to the shrubs that grow in the valley, nor ivy that climbeth up by the elm can ever get hold of the beams of the sun. Cynthia I honour in all humility, whom none ought or dare adventure to love, whose affections are immortal and virtues infinite. Suffer me, therefore, to gaze on the moon, at whom, were it not for thyself, I would die with wondering.
And exuent Endymion et al. Yeah, all sorts of things going on there. We've got this introduction to this whole Endymion divorcing himself from the amiableness of all ladies, the bravery of all courts, the company of all men, have chosen to live solitary in a solitary cell to live. So after quite a few words that went before then, in Emma, you survived, I believe. How was that oration to Cynthia?
There was quite a lot. It made me laugh a little bit. This is almost like his power ballad. There's a line, "There is no mountain so steep that I will not climb." Just remind me to, yes, I'll climb every mountain, river deep, mountain high. You know, it just made me laugh inside. Yeah, that was quite an outpouring there. yeah, he's really, I suppose, yeah, he's just shut himself away in order to prove to Cynthia his complete and utter devotion.
With and because this is an oration to Cynthia, there's no intermediary, there's no trying to explain it to a human being, it's just getting on with their own thoughts, and then Tellus turns up and
he lies.
Yeah. Yeah, what's going on in this scene? Why is this exchange? What's going on with this exchange? Why are people doing what they're doing? Why is this happening? Sarah?
Well, just because everybody's playing a part, aren't they? I mean, I just loved it. The pair of them are there, like, lying away to each other. And, yeah, it just kind of shows up the futility of this kind of scheming. But, like, he's there like, oh, I must play the double-faced, with Tellus. And then she's here like, oh, yes, I will pretend that I am... that I love him and that I know nothing, and it's just like, yeah, it just highlights the absurdity of all this kind of scheming. Is it meant to do anything else other than that? I mean,
Aliki.
I'm really having trouble with who is a person and who is a personification. So, I mean, he's addressing all of this stuff to Cynthia the Moon, which is fine if Cynthia the Moon is up there, but Cynthia appears as... If Tellus can appear as a character and be the Earth, then obviously Cynthia can appear as a character. So I just, yeah.
Are they literally those figures, or are they not?
Yeah. So Tellus says about women, is it in their sex? Shouldn't it be our sex if she's a woman? Unless she's a person of... yeah, I'm reading too much into this. Ignore me.
Sarah.
Yeah, and the way as well, he refers to, they talk about Venus. Oh, well, yeah, she was a woman. She was also a woman, and, Diana, she was also a virgin or whatever. Oh, no, Vesta, rather, she was also a virgin. And it's like they seem to flip back and forth, don't they, between, oh, I'm a deity at the moment, and you must talk to me as such. Oh, but now I am just a woman, and she is just a woman. And I don't know, is there a certain amount of gaslighting by goddesses going on here? They only pull out the goddess card when they feel the need to. Maybe, I don't know.
Eric.
I was going to say, well, because sort of, I was going to say something else, but in reference to Sarah's point, maybe it's sort of like the sort of debate between the public and the private, where you have to be like, for example, as Queen Elizabeth couldn't be seen to shower favors on a specific person, but then in private, obviously, she must have had affections and human emotions and stuff. So maybe it's toying with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's this thing, at the beginning, the sort of humour in that first scene was, not that I am a semi-mythological figure who is in love with another mythological figure. Dude, that's the moon. That's a rock in the sky. That's weird. So the thing is, at the moment that I'm not reading that any of these are actually semi-mythological figures at all. They just have interesting names, but that may be crashed into later on. My only real issue with this scene is I just don't know why they're doing what they're doing. I do not understand why this dialogue is happening. It doesn't seem to be supported enough by the plan. I don't fully understand its function yet. Maybe that will come. Lois, lots of hands suddenly went flying up. Lois, Helen, and Sarah.
Yeah, I think I see what you mean, because Endymion says that he's been pretending to love Tellus to cover his love for Cynthia, and yet he's already told his friend Eumenides about his love for Cynthia, so it's not such a secret as all that. But that seems to be the problem, that he's got to pretend love to Tellus. I mean, allegorically, it doesn't make much sense. You pretend you love the earth when you're really in love with the moon. Big deal. I mean, what can that mean? And And meanwhile, Tellus, I don't know if the idea is that earthly passion is always selfish and vicious and vindictive, which is certainly what hers is. But that's clearly what, she's just trying to worm the truth out of him. I think it's a rather poisonous scene, actually. I mean, because it's people lying through their teeth and being, and with nasty feelings about each other.
Helen.
I feel there must be a history between Endymion and Tellus, because you don't get this sort of animus where you don't have some sort of previous history. It seems to me very much that she's his ex or he's her ex, or one of them hasn't given up on the end of the relationship. I mean, I know that's nowhere in the text, but that's just the feel it has for me.
Well, it answers. It doesn't feel like Tellus has just seen Endymion from afar and gone, "I am in love with this person," and who's always looking up at the sky for reasons I can't fathom. It does feel. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think the text doesn't not support that. So at the moment, Sarah, then Eric.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Helen. When I was reading Tellus, I was assuming that they had been lovers in the past. It definitely reads that way to me. What I was going to say, though, about, what is the point of this scene in terms of how does it doesn't add anything to the plan. What I was trying to say before, but I think maybe I didn't express it properly, is not the point of this scene to undercut the plan. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the play, so I'm just kind of assuming it's all going to go pear-shaped. But, I mean, surely the whole point of this scene is to undercut the plan and kind of create some bathos for the audience, so that they start to, think about these characters in a different way. Is he not just laying the groundwork here for what's going to come later?
I mean, the thing is, if they are effectively, an ex, or they have an established relationship, this is sort of to riff on that, and that's sort of fine, and that would explain a lot of things. But the play hasn't really fully engaged us with that in a way that felt clear, and it may just be that that's just first reading, just it didn't sink in. There are lines that we need to point and make clear. But it just sort of leaps out of just going, why are people behaving in this way during this scene? I don't know why they're doing these things yet. But anyway, there's lots of good things there. It's a very interesting scene, the way it moves. I need to narrow down those motivations. Eric, I think, very briefly before we move on.
I was just going to say, because Lois made reference to allegory, but like loving the earth or like earthly passions would be a sin, so to speak, if you were kind of, as opposed to looking to sort of more platonic love, earthly love, higher heavenly love, that kind of stuff in the context of religious stuff, wouldn't it? I mean, at the time, not now.
Okay, let's go on to scene 2, and we have returning and some new people, I think. So we have Darius Samias, and then Scintilla and Favilla. Someone's either muted or the first line isn't coming out. Darius first. Who is Darius?
It's me. Just a second. Sorry. Come, Samias. Didst thou ever hear such a sighing? The one for Cynthia, the other for Semele, and both for moonshine in the water.
Let them sigh and let us sing. I say, you gentlewomen, are not our masters too far in love?
Their tongues haply are dipped to the root in amorous words and sweet discourses, but I think their hearts are scarce tipped on the side with constant desires.
How say you, Favilla, is not love a lurcher that taketh men's stomachs away that they cannot eat, their spleen that they cannot laugh, their hearts that they cannot fight, their eyes that they cannot sleep, and leaveth nothing but livers to make nothing but lovers.
Away, peevish boy. A rod were better under thy girdle than love in thy mouth. It will be a forward cock that croweth in the shell.
Alas, good old gentlewoman, how it becometh you to be grave.
Favilla, though she be but a spark, yet it is she's a fire.
And you, Scintilla, be not much more than a spark, though you would be esteemed a flame.
It were good sport to see the fight between the two sparks.
Let them to it, and we will warm us by their words.
You are not angry, Favilla?
That is, Scintilla, as you list to take it.
That.
This it is to be matched with girls who, coming but yesterday from the making of the babies, would before tomorrow be the accounted matrons.
I cry your matronship mercy. Because your pantofles be higher with cork, therefore your feet must needs be higher in the insteps. You will be mine elder because you stand upon a stool and I upon the floor.
Good.
Let them alone and see with what countenance they will become friends.
Nay, you think to be the wiser because you mean to have the last word.
Step between them lest they scratch. In faith, gentlewomen, seeing we came out to be merry, let not your jarring mar our jests. Be friends. How say you?
I am not angry, but it spited me to see how short she was.
I meant nothing, till she would needs cross me.
Then so let it rest.
I am agreed.
And I. Yet I never took anything so unkindly in all my life.
'Tis I have the cause that never offered the occasion.
Excellent, and right like a woman.
Strange sight to see water come out of fire.
It is their property to carry in their eyes fire and water, tears and torches, and in their mouths honey and gall.
You will be a good one, if you live. But what is yonder formal fellow?
Indeed, enter Sir Tophas and Epiton.
Sir Tophas! Sir Tophas, of whom we told you? If you be good wenches, make as though you love him and wonder at him.
We will do our parts.
But first let us stand aside, and let him use his garb, for it all consisteth in his gracing.
Epiton,
At hand, sir.
how likest thou this martial life, where nothing but blood bestrengtheth our bosoms? Let me see, be our enemies fat?
Passing fat, and I would not change this life to be a lord, and yourself passeth all comparison. For other captains kill and beat, and there is nothing you kill but you also eat.
I will draw out their guts out of their bellies, and tear the flesh with my teeth. So mortal is my hate, and so eager my unstaunched stomach.
My master thinks himself the valiantest man in the world if he kill a wren. So warlike a thing he accounteth to take away life, though it be from a lark.
Epiton, I find my thoughts to swell, and my spirit to take wings, insomuch that I cannot continue within the compass of so slender combats.
This passeth.
Why is he not mad?
No, but a little vainglorious.
Epiton,
Sir,
I will encounter that black and cruel enemy that beareth the rough and unchewed locks upon his body, whose sire throweth down the strongest walls, whose legs are as many as both ours, on whose head are placed the most horrible horns by nature as a defense from all harms.
what mean you, master, to be so desperate?
Honor inciteth me, and very hunger compelleth me.
What is that monster?
The monster Ovis, I have said, let thy wits work.
I cannot imagine it. Yet let me see. A black enemy with rough locks. It may be a sheep, and Ovis is a sheep. His sire so strong, a ram is a sheep's sire, that being also an engine of war, horns he hath, and 4 legs, so hath a sheep. Without doubt, this monster is a black sheep. Is it not a sheep that you mean?
Thou hast hit it. That monster will I kill and sup with.
Come, let us take him off. Sir Tophas, all hail.
Welcome, children. I seldom cast mine eyes so low as the crowns of your heads, and therefore pardon me that I spake not all this while.
No harm done. Here be fair ladies come to wonder at your person, your valour, your wit, the report whereof hath made them careless of their own honours, to glut their eyes and hearts upon yours.
A report cannot but injure me, for that not knowing fully what I am, I fear she hath been too niggard in her praises.
No, gentle knight, report hath been prodigal, for she hath left you no equal, nor herself credit. So much hath she told, yet no more than we now see.
A good wench.
If there remain as much pity toward women as there is in you courage against your enemies, then shall we be happy, who, hearing of your person, came to see it, and seeing it, are now in love with it.
Love me, ladies. I easily believe it, but my tough heart receiveth no impression with sweet words. Mars may pierce it, Venus shall not paint on it.
A cruel saying.
There's a girl.
Will you cast these ladies away, and all for a little love? Do but speak kindly.
There cometh no soft syllable within my lips. Custom hath made my words bloody, and my heart barbarous. That pelting word, love, how waterish it is in my mouth. It carrieth no sound. Hate, horror, death are speeches that nourish my spirits. I like honey, but I care not for the bees. I delight in music, but I love not to play on the bagpipes. I can vouchsafe to hear the voice of women, but to touch their bodies, I disdain it as a thing childish and fit for such men as can digest nothing but milk.
A hard heart. Shall we die for your love and find no remedy?
I've already taken a surfeit.
Good master, pity them.
Pity them, Epiton? No, I do not think that this breast shall be pestered with such a foolish passion. What is that the gentlewoman carrieth in a chain?
Why, it is a squirrel.
A squirrel. Oh, gods, what things are made for money.
Is not this gentleman overwise?
I could stay all day with him, if I feared not to be shent.
Is it not possible to meet again?
Yes, at any time.
Then let us hasten home.
Sir Tophas, the god of war deal better with you than you do with the god of love.
Our love we may dissemble, digest we cannot. But I doubt not but time will hamper you and help us.
I defy time, who hath no interest in my breast. Come, Epiton, let me to the battle with that hideous beast. Love is pap, and hath no relish in my taste, because it is not terrible.
Indeed, a black sheep is a perilous beast. But let us until another time.
I shall long for that time.
And everybody exits. Yeah, end of scene. So it's interesting, you have this sort of infighting opening where everyone's sort of sparring with each other, and then enters Sir Tophas and they go, "Hey, no, stop that. We've got something better to do. We can make fun of him." And lo, they do. And yeah, there's yeah, all these, you know, he's is he mad? No, he's just a bit vain. Yeah, he's the you know, the vain braggart soldier figure. Yeah, is very there. All sorts of things. That peltish word love, how waterish it is in my mouth, it carrieth no sound, you know. And then you've got words where you can really chew them to death, really, isn't it? Hate and horror and death. You know, you can really muck around with that and enjoy that. Yeah, lots of stuff for an actor to be getting on with. Lois.
Yeah, I wondered if anybody else noticed the resemblance between that bit where Sir Tophas gives an elaborate definition of a sheep and those moments in The Upstart Crow where the Shakespeare character, sorry, is always doing that kind of thing. Sorry. You know, always doing elaborate definitions of something that people have to work out.
Yes, and we can probably assume that a reasonable number of the audience would have known that the monster ovis that is a word Latin for sheep, and you know it's just Epiton has to spend all this time working through it, going it's got all those things, and it's it's a sheep, and it's it's great wit. We'll move away from that awkward moment. We'll pretend it didn't happen. And Eric, I think I saw a hand.
Yeah, no, I was just like interested in the fact that they're talking about love, but in this play, Cupid has not appeared yet. I don't know if he does appear later, but like based on the cast list. But it's just interesting because, like, you know, in the previous Lyly play we did, Cupid was all over the place and stuff, and being tortured and so on.
Yeah, we've had good Cupid presence from Lyly so far on percentage terms, and yeah, in that sense, again, it's that big question of how mythological are any of these characters, and that so far we haven't really had the really absolutely explicit "I am here to cause mischief" kind of setup yet. Helen,
Are we actually talking about a real live pet squirrel here?
I was assuming it was just a thick trinket on a chain myself, but stuffed squirrel, I'm all for. I'm all for a stuffed squirrel.
Well, no, I mean, I'm thinking of I mean, obviously, there must be laws against putting a chain round a squirrel and carrying it on stage, and good laws too, but nevertheless, there weren't then. Are we talking about a captive squirrel?
Probably. I mean, the people did keep them as pets. I mean, there's a reference in, I think it's The Country Wife, where Marjorie says in the postscript to her letter, you know, don't let my husband find out about this because he'll pinch me and kill my squirrel.
Yes, it's one of the most funniest lines in the play. It doesn't. Endless debate in rehearsals as to, is this the right kind of laugh that we're going for? It's a laugh. Take it. Take it.
Kill my squirrel.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, the Eric.
Well, I was going to say that you could either go like a pet squirrel or sort of like go the other way, because like in the previous scene he appeared in, he goes they ask him, is this your sword? And he goes, no, this is my scimitar. And obviously you don't know if there is actually a scimitar on stage or something else. So it's kind of like, you know, it could be that element of sort of, you know, identifying things wrongly.
Yeah, because it's not his scimitar; it's his smiter. It's you know, it's goodness only knows what actually the weapon is. Aliki.
So I'm just going to take a moment to point out what unpleasant young men Scintilla, Darius, and Samias are, setting their friends on to fight each other, and then going, no, it's okay. Here's somebody else we can make fun of.
Yes, they do say some really horrible things. I mean, they are you know presumably young lads, and you know displaying that sort of young semi-sociopathic quality that teenage boys have. Aliki.
Sorry, am I being excessively modern and foul-minded in Favilla's line near the top of the scene? A rod were better under thy girdle than love in thy mouth. It will be a forward cock that croweth in the shell.
I don't think so. That all seems to fit together.
Okay, good.
And yeah, I again we've had this discussion about the relative filthiness of material that you could get through here. It's really not unknown. So I'm willing to go with that. Other thoughts? Alexandra.
Like you in the last scene, I'm wondering what this scene is doing. And I think what my mind is putting together is that there is a second layer that is of contemporary reference, which we now don't have, in which these things would be relevant, or they would have, there would be referential humor. So the thing about the squirrel, the comment on the squirrel is not a pun, it's not a joke of any sort. And yet they say, isn't he too wise? Isn't he overwise? So the symbolism of that squirrel might have been something to do with this is a reference to someone who has it as a pet, or this is a reference to someone who has it as a badge, or something like that. And I think similarly, going and hunting the black sheep, I don't know if the significance of a black sheep as a phrase existed at the time, but maybe there's something in that. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment, trying to find meaning.
I have a bouncing off thought from that, but I'll go to Lois, then Helen first.
Yeah, I think part of the point of this is that Sir Tophas is probably fat, but perpetually hungry. And I think he takes one look at that squirrel and has designs on it, in fact, and then realizes, of course, he can't very well take her pet need it. But I would guess he backs off. I mean, you could get a nice bit of business around that. Because he's obviously starving all the time. I mean, looking for something or other to eat, and all these weapons are designed simply for killing animals of the right size.
Helen.
Yes, I was thinking about the structure and where these two Sir Tophas plays fit. And I'm reminded of Galatea, or as we've learnt to call it, Galatea. It's there, you'd got the young lad's story and the mythological story, and they meet very, very briefly at the end of Act 5. And this seems to be very, very Lyly. So I don't think there's any particular reason why we should expect to be making a connection between the two plots at this stage.
Yeah, and I'm going to take it beyond Galatea. Every Lyly play that we've looked at has the servant characters who come on and do business with a vague connection sometimes to the rest of the action, or to a greater or lesser degree. It's ditched quite unceremonially halfway through Sappho and Phao. It continues all the way through Campaspe. So this fourth play where effectively the same thing is going on, I'm increasingly thinking that this is basically those younger figures, this is their shtick. This is what they do in these plays, and that this may have range outside of what Lyly is writing. This is just what is happening within these companies, or this company, and that's how it fits in, and it's removable. Therefore, it's also a rehearsal thing. It can be rehearsed separately without being connected with actually the rest of the show for 90% of the time. Lois.
Yeah, I was thinking of, in Damon and Pythias, you've got these page boys making fun of the collier, which seems to me a similar setup, with the collier, like Sir Tophas, may very well be the schoolmaster or the director, the actor who, takes the younger kids and works up their scenes separately from the others.
Mm. Yeah, so you can leave the older members of the company to get on with their bits, but is there to be very on hand with this kind of material. But yes, we could be wrong. It may all connect. This is a significantly or reasonably longer play than the other Lilies we've been doing. So there may be more interconnection. We do need to move on because we've discussed that rather longer. So we're going to run the next two scenes, and there's a dumb show in between the two scenes, into each other to conclude the session. Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Endymion. There is also Dipsas and Bagoa, present but unseen ? So that's my inferred stage direction there. Endymion may be alone, may not at some point be joined by other people. Anyway, Endymion at the moment probably alone.
No rest, Endymion? Still uncertain how to settle thy steps by day, or thy thoughts by night? Thy truth is measured by thy fortune, and thou art judged unfaithful because thou art unhappy. I will see if I can beguile myself with sleep, and if no slumber will take hold in my eyes, yet will I embrace the golden thoughts in my head, and wish to melt by musing, that as ebony, which no fire can scorch, is yet consumed with sweet savours, so my heart, which cannot be bent by the hardness of fortune, may be bruised by amorous desires. On yonder bank never grew anything but lunery, and hereafter I will never have any bed but that bank. Ah, Endymion, Tellus was fair, but what availeth beauty without wisdom? Nay, Endymion, she was wise, but what availeth wisdom without honour? She was honourable, Endymion, belie her not. Ay, but how obscure is honour without fortune? Was she not fortunate whom so many followed? Yes, yes, but base is fortune without majesty. Thy majesty, Cynthia, all the world knoweth and wondereth at, but not one in the world that can imitate it or comprehend it. Ah, no more, Endymion. Sleep or die. Nay, die, for to sleep is impossible, and yet I know not how it cometh to pass. I feel such a heaviness both in mine eyes and heart that I am suddenly benumbed. Yea, in every joint. It may be weariness. When did I rest? It may be deep melancholy. When did I not sigh? Cynthia, I say, Cynthia.
And Endymion falls asleep.
Little dost thou know, Endymion, when thou shalt wake, for hadst placed thy heart as low in love as thy head lieth now in sleep, thou mightest have commanded Tellus, who now instead of a mistress thou shalt find a tomb. These eyes must I seal up by my art, not the nature, which ought to be owned neither by my art nor the nature. Thou that layest down with golden locks shalt not wake until they be turned to silver hairs, and that chin, on which scarcely appeareth soft down, shall be filled with bristles as hard as broom. Thou shalt sleep out thy youth and flowering time, and become dry hay before thou knowest thyself green grass, and ready by age to step into the grave when thou wakest, that was youthful in the court when thou laidst thee down to sleep. The malice of Tellus has brought this to pass, which if she could not have entreated of me by fair means, she would have commanded by menacing. For from her gather we all our simples to maintain our sorceries. Fan with this hemlock over his face, and sing the enchantment for sleep, whilst I go and finish those ceremonies that are required in our art. Take heed ye touch not his face, for the fan is so seasoned that whoso it toucheth with a leaf shall presently die, and over whom the wind of it breatheth, he shall sleep forever.
And exit Dipsas.
Let me alone, I will be careful. What hap hadst thou, Endymion, to come under the hands of Dipsas? Oh, fair Endymion, oh, it grieveth me that fair face should be turned to a withered skin and taste the pains of death before it feel the reward of love. I fear Tellus will repeat that which the heavens themselves seem to rue. But I hear Dipsas come in. I dare not repine, lest she makes me pine and rock me into such a deep sleep that I shall not awake to my marriage.
And re-enter Dipsas.
Have you finished?
Yeah.
Well then, let us in, and see that you do not so much as whisper that I did this, For if you do, I will turn thy hairs to adders, and all thy teeth in thy head to tongues. Come away! Come away!
Exit Dipsas, and with someone who textually sounds remarkably like the work experience person. I'm not going to pause there. We have a dumb show. Dumb show comes from a later printing of the text. It doesn't appear in the original edition, so it appears 40 odd years later. But there is a dumb show in theory here. Music sounds. 3 ladies enter, one with a knife and a looking glass, who, by the procurement of one of the other, offers to stab Endymion as he sleeps. But the third wrings her hands and lamenteth, offering still to prevent it, but dares not. At last the first lady, looking in the glass, casts down the knife. Exit the ladies. Enters an ancient man with books, with 3 leaves, offers the same twice. Endymion refuseth. This ancient man rendeth 2 of them, and offers the third. There, where he stands a while, and then Endymion offers to take it, and this dumb show, in theory, exits. The question of where Endymion remains throughout the course of the play is an open question. Act 3, Scene 1. We now have, finally, the arrival of Cynthia, which I was trying to get to before we finished the session. Enter Cynthia, Tellus, Semele, Eumenides, Corsites, Paneleon, and Zontes.
Is the report true that Endymion is stricken into such a dead sleep that nothing can either wake him or move him?
True, too true, madam, and as much to be pitied as wondered at.
As good sleep, and do no harm as wake, and do no good.
What maketh you tell us to be so short? The time was, Endymion only was.
It is an old saying, madam, that a waking dog doth afar off bark at a sleeping lion.
It were good, Eumenides, that you took a nap with your friend, for your speech beginneth to be heavy.
Contrary to your nature, Semele, which hath been always accounted light.
What? That we hear before my face these unseemly and malapert overthwarts? I will tame your tongues and your thoughts, and make your speeches answerable to your duties and your conceits fit for my dignity. Else will I banish you, both my person and the world.
Pardon, I humbly ask, but such is my unspotted faith to Endymion that whatsoever seemeth a needle to prick his finger is a dagger to wound my heart.
If you be so dear to him, how happeneth it you neither go to see him, nor search for remedy for him?
I have seen him to my grief, and sought recure with despair, for that I cannot imagine who should restore him that is the wonder of all men. Your Highness, on whose hands the compass of the earth is at command, though not in possession, may show yourself both worthy your sex, your nature, and your favour, if you redeem that honourable Endymion, whose ripe years foretell rare virtues, and whose unmellowed conceits promise ripe counsel.
I have had trial of Endymion, and conceive greater assurance of his age than I could hope of his youth.
But timely, madam, crooks that tree that will be a cammock, and young it pricks that will be a thorn. And therefore, he that began without care to settle his life, it is a sign without amendment he will end it.
Presumptuous girl, I will make thy tongue an example of unrecoverable displeasure. Corsites, carry her to the castle in the desert, and leave her there to remain and weave.
Shall she work stories or poetry?
It skilleth not which, go to in both, for she shall find examples infinite in either, what punishment long tongues have. Eumenides, if either the soothsayers in Egypt, or the enchanters in Thessaly, or the philosophers in Greece, or all the sages of the world can find a remedy, I will procure it. Therefore, dispatch with all speed. You, Eumenides, go into Thessaly. You, Zontes, go into Greece, because you are acquainted in Athens. And you, Penelion, go to Egypt, saying that Cynthia sendeth, and, if you will, commandeth.
A bowed knee I give thee thanks, and with the wings on my legs I will fly for a remedy.
We are ready at your highness' command and hope to return to your full content.
It shall never be said that Cynthia, whose mercy and goodness filleth the heavens with joys and the world with marvels, will suffer either Endymion or any to perish if he may be protected.
Your Majesty's words have been always deeds, and your deeds virtues.
And everybody, or almost everybody, exits to be debated tomorrow. So yes, we've had a lot suddenly happen. It's suddenly we have the confirmation that Cynthia exists and is as an actual person, and that's nice. We've had Endymion falling asleep, being enchanted to sleep for I don't know how long, for many years, and grow old and thing. We've got this dumb show that's doing something that is not 100% clear yet. But with dumb shows, often that becomes clear later on. So don't worry about that too much at this time. And then, yes, we have this Cynthia going, sort of trying to deal with the situation, and all sorts of things are happening suddenly very, very, very fast. Thoughts, questions, confusions, all this data I've suddenly thrown at you in quick succession. Helen?
I don't think Tellus is the personification of Earth. Tellus is a far inferior person to Cynthia. Cynthia dismisses her with a just out of hand. Yeah, take her away.
Take her to the castle in the desert that we keep for such people.
Yes, I mean, there's no sense of them being rival potentates. I think Tellus is just a random nymph.
Yeah, well, I think basically everybody so far seems to be pretty much human, apart from Cynthia. That's the only person who has any meaningful connection to actual power. Alan?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was certainly misled in part by the grammatical sonar at the top, where it says Tellus, the Earth Goddess.
You've got to ignore that thing.
But I think an Earth Goddess, possibly, to follow up really on what Helen was saying.
Yeah, you've got to ignore that editorial stuff from the beginning, because it's mostly probably wrong. Lois?
But still, in that first scene between Tellus and Floscula, Floscula has a speech which certainly sounds as if Tellus actually is the earth. And I think Tellus also talks about herself as, having rivers and plants and, being the kind of embodiment of all these things, which could only be the earth. I mean, it seems to kind of fluctuate. I thought the speech that Dipsas makes as she's sort of enchanting Endymion was absolutely beautiful. I mean, quite disturbing as well. Obviously, that sense of being old before you're young and so on. Really strange, and presumably something like 40 years must have gone by, or 20 years at any rate, by the time Cynthia and the others are talking about him, because he is at least middle-aged by then.
And still asleep. Yes, thou shalt sleep out thy youth and flowering time, and become dry hay before thou knowest thyself green grass. Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, we were set up for this, weren't we, in scene 2, because with the dynamic between Tellus and Cynthia, because her maidservant did say, she's higher up the ladder than you are. So we were set up for this, but I have to say I kind of lost the plot slightly in that scene. I was confused by the dumb show, which we won't talk about now. But then I'm like, okay. But am I right in thinking that Cynthia has banished Tellus not for causing the problem in the first place with Endymion falling asleep, not for kind of, commissioning the coma of Endymion, but just for being really rude. That's why she's been banished. So does Cynthia actually know what she's done, or what? I don't. Yeah.
No, it certainly doesn't look like it. And it's also very odd that Tellus should come out with all these bitchy remarks about Endymion. I mean, why on earth is she doing that? She's just cutting her own throat, really.
Yeah, and also if she was mortal, then she'd be middle-aged by this point as well, which, yeah, I don't know. I think she must be some sort of goddess. But yeah, anyway, I'm confused, but that's fine. I frequently am.
That's absolutely allowed. And yes, we did rush that a bit, so a little bit of time, and also when we start and gather more evidence next session, we'll be able to untangle the beginning of Act 3, when there is a fairly clear act scene division that is structurally seems to be in place and seems to be doing things. So that's quite useful so far. So we're now into or approaching extra time. So it's general thoughts about the play overall, reference to earlier Lilies that we've already done, and about what's going on with characters. We've got this clear, Endymion, love with the moon, love with Cynthia. We've got Tellus in love with him, but that's gone horribly wrong in horrible ways, and is commissioned falling asleep. And then we got subplot with funny man, and so in a sense, on the big standing us back from it, the plot is nice and straightforward. It's when you start getting down to the minutiae of why individual scenes are happening and what's going on in those scenes that at the moment I'm finding myself a little confused at times. Not necessarily with what's going on, I'm just not quite sure why it's going on a lot of the time, beyond the fact that it is. So, final thoughts around the room. Emma, you've been the Endymion. Final thoughts.
I am still kind of processing it quite a lot. I'll probably have a bit more to say tomorrow, but yeah, I've enjoyed reading Endymion. Some very big speeches there, but I think I'd be excited as an actor to kind of break them down a bit more. Especially that last one I read, actually, where he's kind of having an argument with himself, saying, you know what, Tellus was really beautiful, actually, and there's a bit of kind of maybe he could go either way at this point, which is quite interesting. I'd like to break that down a bit more. But yeah, see what happens. Anyway.
Yeah, there's that sense of there might be some feelings there, and then also just that back and forth between I should sleep, but I'm too excited I'm too confused.
That would be fun to work on and physicalize. Yeah.
Aliki, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting my head around this one too. I don't really know that I have very much to say except what we've already observed, that there are these very comic scenes that are just sitting there and they don't seem to have much to do with anything else. And I can't say I find the love story compelling, but I don't know, there's something going on I can't see, and I will be more verbal next time.
Sarah, any final thoughts?
I'm confused. I'm quite happy to be confused, I have to say. At this stage, it's that's something that happens a lot with modern audiences, isn't it? You spend like the first hour and a half of a film going, what is actually going on? And then it's like, oh, right, okay, everyone's aging backwards or whatever. I think in a way a modern audience wouldn't have any issues with this, depending on how it goes, obviously, in terms of following it, because it's absolutely fine to be confused. In terms of it in terms of the individual characters and the individual scenes, I'm finding it very entertaining. There's some quite chewy stuff in there, and there's some interesting things, issues that, you know, if you were going to stage it, it would give you something to get your teeth into and work with or around or through or however you chose to do it. But in terms of where all that is leading, I have no clue. I also agree, though, that I'm not finding the love story very compelling. But I don't know. Are we supposed to? I don't know. I mean, it's the man in the moon, isn't it? So it's not a usual love story. I don't know. But it's fun.
Yes, just always remember, it's not a comedy, it's not a tragedy, it's just the man in the moon. Eric, final thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like it's that thing of, you know, they discovered Dadaism a few centuries too early. Like, it's kind of, because the comic scenes are quite funny. You can imagine those being like sort of sketch things, despite the misogyny and all that stuff. But the other plot is not as serious or as well thought out, I feel, compared to like Galatea or the other ones that we saw.
Helen, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm relieved that Cynthia's appeared. I was beginning to think she was mythical. Yeah, I would go with other people that this is, it lacks something. I mean, Endymion is rather like Phao, moderately ineffectual. But no, I mean, you have to reserve your, so far, only Sir Tophas is and the little boys are interesting me at all. But I think that there could be more, there will be more to come.
Yes, there is, of course. We're only about a third of the way through. Elizabeth, final thoughts?
I thought that I'm actually really enjoying this play. I thought that the characters are really compelling and the narrative hangs together quite well. I particularly loved Endymion. I thought Endymion was a really endearing character. I think that the play it's like a slow burn. It takes a while to heat up, and so that I think it doesn't have that instant gratification, and it doesn't have that much violence or bloodshed in it. So it's not gory. It hasn't got that level of engagement. It's more of a bit of a cerebral play. I think it's more of a thinking one, and I did enjoy that. I did like it. I do like it a lot.
Yeah, that sense of there is a clear narrative, and yes, things are suddenly now happening. But some, there's suddenly he's asleep, and Cynthia's turned up, and so it's there's a huge amount of potential now that we've got. It's always difficult doing a beginning actually of how do you set things up? How do you get characters turning over before you actually start doing things with them? So lots of potential for tomorrow. Lois, final thoughts?
Yeah, I have a feeling that Lily's getting tied in knots because any play that has Cynthia as a character is going to make people think Queen Elizabeth, allegory, what's this got to do with her? And people have worked out, I know, theories about what it's saying about her and the Earl of Leicester, for example. But the trouble is there's also the possibility of an allegory that everybody can relate to, which is just the impossible love, somebody loving something which by definition is unattainable, and an extreme kind of romantic situation. You could play Endymion like that as well. I think a lot of the play is really very beautiful. It'll just be interesting to see how it does come together later on. But I think that he has problems with it. I mean, he can't very well show Elizabeth falling madly in love with somebody, or even implying that in any way. So he's somehow got to. And we keep hearing about how wonderful Cynthia is, something everybody knows, and she's got to stay like that, presumably.
Yes, I have to say, if anything, I'm a reverse on Helen's position. I'm slightly disappointed that Cynthia's turned up because I was really hoping this whole play was going to be about some guy just going, I really love the moon. for the whole play, and that just ruins everything in some weird way. But that's my problem. That's really my issue. That isn't an actual issue. That's just me being
It's
me.
interesting, though.
Yeah. Alan, final thoughts.
I'm going to reserve judgment until we've heard a bit more. At the moment, it feels to me like a sketch show with the basically what's supposed to be the main plot, just enough of that to hold a few comic set pieces together. I'm not really finding it engaging.
And finally, Alexandra.
I agree with you, Rob. I'm kind of sad that Cynthia has appeared, and I do think that there is a. It's not that the play is missing something. I think there is something we are missing that the audience of the time would have understood. Whether that's we want to say that's contemporary references to the Queen and specific people, which would explain things like the prior relationship that Endymion and Tellus have, that everybody should just know what that means, or what the significance of the squirrel is, etc. But even setting that aside, there's, I think, perhaps this may have been played to an audience that had more familiarity with the original myth or with mythology in general, or there might be other things that are additional layers that we don't have at the moment. Because yes, it does feel very disjointed, and it's not badly written. On the contrary, I think that the way in which the dialogue is constructed is so tight and so snappy, and so from the beginning actually, that clearly this is a choice. This is not an accident that there is almost no narrative. So I think the thing that is significant for us as a considering putting it on now is constructing or deciding on and making sure that we clarify to an audience that additional layer, that we give the audience a reason to care about these people, whatever that, however you might set that up directorially. It's really important.
It might also be that we're our problem is that we're trying to lay too much onto things as well, that we're actually going the other way. Is that it's that question we're constantly talking about, whether these people are mythological or not, and maybe none of them are, and that actually that's a massive red herring. And but then we went on quite a lengthy tangent about a squirrel, so goodness only knows where we're going to be by Wednesday. All that remains is to say that we are going to be returning to this in a future session as we go from Act 3, Scene 2 to into Act 4, and we're going to continue careering through this text, finding more things. I think it's fair to say there's a lot more to come. There's a lot of detail to get, and that there's a lot more potential yet to be mined. When we have a clear idea where the play is going and where it is, we'll have a much clearer idea what we might be wanting to do with it, and what potential options this play may give us. Lyly has given us quite a lot of options before, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing where that goes. All that remains is to thank all the readers in the room for all their wonderful reading, and farewell.